Virginia this weekend. I actually officiated the wedding of my nephew and his fiance, now wife, my first time. So I actually not just the host of the show, I'm actually technically a minister too. So so I had a really good time. West Virginia is a beautiful part of the country, and my nephew and Emily, his wife, they're on their honeymoon, so they're not listening to the show, but if they were, I would say congrats again. So anyways, we do have some people in the studio today. Johnny Calabrese is a composer and lyricist of a new musical called Crystal Clear that will be performed at Utica University, and he is here in the studio. Also, with one of the performers from the show. We'll talk to her in a moment too. But Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here. I've never talked to a composer before. So tell me, what is it? What is Crystal Clear, and what did you do with that?
So Crystal Clear is a new musical. It was actually a senior project from one of my friends, Callista Janicki, at the college we went to, which was SUNY Purchase. And so she was a playwriting, screenwriting major, and she was like, I need a composer for this. I just got into the program, and I was like, I love to write music. I'm a songwriter, and I love musical theater, so why don't we work on this together? So we started that in November, finished all the way to April, and then we put on a full production of it at the college.
So she wrote the characters in the story, and then you wrote the music and the songs.
Yeah. So she wrote the entire script and the majority of the lyrics, and then when I hopped on, she was sort of halfway done. Yeah. I helped out with some more lyrics there.
So what's it about? What's Crystal Clear about?
So it follows the love dynamic between these two characters. Tanya, she's a junior aquarist at this aquarium called Clearwater. And so she just gets engaged to her fiance, Erica. And without giving too much away, they sort of follow this. She's trying to spread the news of the engagement to her friends and her family at work, but she has an estranged sister. And there's some complications there. And then her ex-boyfriend comes back into the picture hearing about the engagement. So
wow, it sounds like quite a drama.
Yeah.
So was it always intended as a musical, or was it first intended as a play and then she decided to add the music to it, the writer?
I believe it was always intended to be a musical, because Callista told me, she's like, I really want to write a musical. So yeah, she actually got the ideas from a tarot card reading, which is kind of surprising. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah. So how did that come about?
I honestly don't know.
I'll have to have her on the show as well.
Yeah. She's in Spain right now.
Neat.
Yeah.
So tell me now, as a composer, so she gave you a script to copy the play, and then what did you do? Do you read the play and think about do songs come into your head and lyrics into your heart? How does that work?
Yeah, so the process is, for me, it's actually easier to work with lyrics sometimes first, and then setting that to music, because I feel like I can already see the rhythm and how that works out. Music seems to come to me a little easier than lyrics.
Okay.
But yeah, she was sort of halfway there, and what I did was I would go to the practice room at the college with the little pianos there, and I'd take a look at the lyrics and just try to find the emotion of the song, like the intent behind it, and you apply some music theory knowledge that you learn here and there. And
so when you're composing, so is it kind of like we see on in films where you're at the piano, you're maybe singing some of the lines, playing some notes on the piano, then if it works, writing on the, what do you call that? Like the lines with all the lines we write the notes on?
Yeah, the staff paper.
So on the staff paper, if something sounds right, would you write the note there? And
so I feel like that's what they would have done back then. But see, we've got phones now, we've got voice memos.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I tend, being a more contemporary songwriter and not fully classically trained,
right.
I'm actually better with ear listening and playing by ear. So what I would do was once I had an idea or a melody in my head, I'd play it out on the piano, sing it, and I'd record it on my phone.
Oh,
and
I
then
see.
I take it from there and go into my little notation program. The one I used was MuseScore. It's free, which is very nice.
So after you play it, if it sounds good, you listen to it again, and then you kind of deconstruct it to the notes that you played and
Yeah.
how long each note was held for
Yeah,
and stuff?
exactly.
Oh, cool. So now when you wrote songs for the play,
Mhm.
did the playwright tell you like which tone to hit with each parts? Like, are some of the songs like, is there like some a ballad or some harder songs or fast songs? What kind of songs did you write?
So when it comes to musical theater, I feel like you kind of have to have a mix of songs, and it always depends on the show as well. But you'll always have your like I want ballad song, maybe a love song here and there. You'll throw in a comedy number or a dance number, and then there's the 11 o'clock number where the character has this like big catharsis or realization.
That I am telling you I'm not going song.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Right. Usually happens like right at the end of the second act almost. But we had a little discussion before if I struggled with something, but I really took it to myself first to try to understand where the tones were, and then I ended up bringing Callista into a lot of my piano practices for it to be like, hey, like what do you think of this? And I really wanted to make sure that she was comfortable with where I was taking the songs. You know, it was such a passion project between the both of us.
Kind of to make sure on the right track and interpreting it the way
Yeah.
it wants to interpret. So one of the performers is here today. Her name is Claire Bosley, and she plays the lead. Her character's name is Tanya.
Tanya, yes.
Tanya. So tell us about your character.
So Tanya is, like we just said, a junior aquarist at this aquarium called Clearwater. She has
A
been
little bit closer to your mic there.
hello. She has been in a relationship with Erica for 7 years at this point, and she's a very interesting person. I mean, she's very down to earth, but at the same time, she's not. Without giving too much away.
Yeah. Complicated.
It's really complicated, and she's kind of experiencing this knowingness about her life with also this experiencing this like unknowingness about her own life. And she's, you know, very passionate about a lot of things. She's passionate about her feelings for Erica, but she's passionate about this feud she has going on with her sister, because on one end it's like that's her sister, that's someone she's very close with, that is, you know, she grew up with her, they were very close. And then also she's under the impression that her sister is not approving of her relationship and left her because she's in a relationship with a woman. And so she's having this conflict of, do I choose this person that I love or this other person that I love? And she feels like she has to make that choice. But you discover that she does not have to make that choice. That's not the choice necessarily that she's dealing with, and there's a lot more at play with that she's unaware of.
So how do you, as an actor, bring all that to the stage?
So it's a really hard thing to navigate with a character that kind of knows where they are but doesn't really quite understand what they are. And so I've been dealing with this. How do I show this feeling of uneasiness and this feeling like something is, you know, coming, something is inevitable that I don't necessarily know what that is. And so as the show goes on and progresses, you know, in the beginning I'm very down to earth, like I just got a promotion, I'm having the best time ever. And then, you know, Tanya gets engaged in the beginning of the show. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've just got a promotion, I'm engaged, I'm gonna move. And then all of a sudden in a very similar way to, I think, like how people experience life when all these things happen at one time, like now you're realizing all these changes are happening and it's causing, you know, what does that feel like to just experience so much change at once when you've been in the same place your whole life? And so I've kind of been trying to embody that. And as the show progresses, Erica starts rushing Tanya, is like, let's get out of here. And Tanya's like, starts to kind of crumble under that pressure and all the pressure of reuniting with her sister, who she ends up running into. I shouldn't say running into, she's not conveniently run into her, but and her ex-boyfriend, who she does run into, and there's all these strings pulling at her.
So how do you as an actress like kind of amp up the intensity? I'm wondering, like, when you first got the script, like with any play, like when you first get a script, do you like read through the lines and like write notes in the margins or write symbols or highlight stuff, or like what do you do with the text itself?
I mean, it really depends on the show. It depends on the material that I'm dealing with. I think with this being a musical, a lot of the feeling and the emotion came from the basis of learning that music and understanding what the songs were about. And then I kind of built that around what was in the scenes. And so as the show progresses, Tanya's music gets a lot less happy. Like, it gets a lot more in depth. It gets a lot more like coming from this raw place in the heart. And so
that must help you bring the emotion.
oh yeah.
And I'm sure, Johnny, that's probably what you kind of intended too.
For sure, 100%.
Is it hard for you when you're writing, like when you wrote this, did you have to, must have had to put yourself in the mind frame of the characters?
Yeah.
Are there other characters that you had to write for too, as well as Tanya?
Yeah. So Tanya is one character in this little mini ensemble of people in her life. Some of the other characters include Erica, and most of the songs are Erica and Tanya as a duet, being so close as they are. Then we also follow Tanya's sister, who is a pretty big character, and there's the fact that she's pregnant and she's about to have a baby.
Lots of complicated.
Yeah, she's trying
like
to
a great drama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And her sister is emotional because she's trying to reconnect with Tanya despite everything. And then we even have the ex-boyfriend, and then the ensemble that works at the aquarium, and then they just sort of appear in scenes with Tanya and Erica as just sort of like these shadows almost.
So, like what Claire said, it sounds like she kind of connected first with the text through the music, and I think a lot of people probably will, and I think a lot of viewers or people who go to see the play will feel the same way. So it's a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Like how to write songs not only that are good songs and good songs that can be performed well, and songs that are like good Johnny Calabrese songs, but songs that are done by you, kind of through the perspective of the characters. How do you get into that mindset to compose almost as if you were the character?
It's difficult to describe in a way. I think I becomes like one with my instrument in a way, and I feel like I can feel like the colors and the emotions through that. And
I totally understand. I think it's interesting for listeners like who maybe don't do art to think that like that is kind of like how it is when you create stuff. You sort of like see it and feel it and conceptualize it in colors and symbols and words and phrases and so many things, right?
And then you even take cliches or tropes like, I'm going to use this chord progression here because this sounds sad. Like think I don't know, an Adele ballad or something where she's crying, and then you take you take what you learned from that.
And then you build on that probably to do it.
And then I think you got to think about your audience and sort of the setting that the show is in. Like, is it modern? Is it old? And you take from what's old and you build from that as well, because that people connect most, I think, with familiarity, and that's how you get into them in a way.
And you kind of have to be able to like hit certain notes to like get a reaction in the audience.
Definitely.
You can kind of count on them feeling the way they gotta feel at the right time.
For sure.
So Claire, like for your character, when you are preparing for a role, do you like look at other performers maybe who played parts that were similar, either like locally people who did it live, or like famous people maybe in media that like you admire? Who inspires you?
I inspire myself.
I love that answer.
I really actually
Can't do better than that.
avoid looking at other performers. As a performer myself, it's kind of a rule that I've always set for myself is I don't want to try to replicate what some Broadway performer did in whatever role that is. I don't want to be Claire Bosley as oh man, I can't think of any Broadway performer, but any Broadway performer. I don't want to be me as someone else. I want to be me as someone else. And so I want to have my own interpretation, and that involves not trying to even subconsciously pull things from other people. And I think that's the one thing that's great about doing an original work is that I can fully there's nothing in the way of me just doing this from my perspective as me, because in order to create that humanness of the character, you do have to pull from your most genuine human experience, which is just being yourself and existing as a person.
And how does an actor pull from that genuine experience? with that power that you have, with the intensity and the power that you have to perform that, how do you do that, like night after night, rehearsal after rehearsal? What do you do to keep your stamina up and your concentration?
You just really have to take care of yourself and be really in tune with yourself. I mean, we had a moment last night at rehearsal where I literally started crying.
It probably
so
happens
much.
a lot in plays
It
that we think in
does.
rehearsal because it's so emotional.
Because you get really invested in it, and it's
Yeah.
just as you're reading the words, once you feel yourself really connecting with what it is, and sometimes that means, it depends on the actor really, but sometimes that means you're connecting it with, times that you've experienced the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's a song that I sing that's about my sister, and I have a little sister, and that song makes me, like, when I think about my family, and it makes me feel some type of way, because I'm like, oh man, like, I really treasure my relationship with my sister. I can't imagine not having one. And so
it
like
allows you to have like a real emotion that the audience can actually see.
Yeah, for sure. Like connecting with that text in your own way and then transferring that over to what the meaning of the song is. It's not necessarily being like putting myself in, I guess it's kind of doing that, but in the same sense, it's just pulling from your real life experience. Like I've never had the situation of having a poor relationship with my sister and then singing about it in a song, but I have had the experience of having a sister, and I know what it's like to have a sister and to have someone I feel that connection with, and so I pull from that experience and then I modify that and I think about what that can be like. So you do have to have a really strong sense of empathy to understand other people, even people that aren't real, that are on paper. Like you have to be able to understand these people, why they do what they do.
You have to fully understand them to inhabit them, I would imagine. Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You
Well,
have
that's
to
a
be
really
really
good
in tune.
explanation.
That's so well
of what
said.
I was going to say that. It was pretty good. So now, how about you? So like with the show, like what are some of your favorite songs in the show that we got to listen to? We're going to go to break. Tell us a few songs to look for, and when we go to see Crystal Clear.
Where Do We Go From Here is the Act 1 finale. Farewell for Now is the Act 2 finale.
Okay.
And A New Start is the opening number. Those are some of my favorites.
And how do people go see this play? When will it be performed? Is there a charge? Where is it? Where, when?
It's free admission, open to the public at Utica University this Friday at 7:30 p.m. in Strebel Auditorium.
So Friday, 7:30 p.m. at Utica University at Strebel. And if you go there, like for days of the plays, the doors are opened up, so you just park and walk into Strebel. And if you go online, there's a map of the campus. I'm kind of used to it by now, but for some people, it can throw them and stuff. So Crystal Clear, it'll be performed Friday, Utica University, 7:30 p.m. Thank you, Johnny Calabrese and Claire Bosley. Can't wait to see the show. Up next, we're going to talk more about some of the great stuff that's happening at Utica University. I'll have more after the break. This is Ron Klopfenstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show on this Media Monday. I know it's a Wednesday, but I wasn't here Monday, so this Wednesday is officially a Monday, bonus Monday edition of the Hot Seat Media Monday. Today we're talking to all these talented people from Utica University. Crystal Clear is being performed this weekend. We just spoke to Johnny Calabrese, who's a composer and the lyricist, and Claire Bosley, who performs in the show. 7:30 this Friday, Utica University at Strebel. And 2 weeks from then, in 2 weeks, it'll be homecoming weekend at Utica University. And it's become like a tradition. I think they have a cabaret on homecoming weekend. So
It has.
Professor Laura Salvaggio, professor of theater, is here to join us now. And tell us all about the cabaret that you guys are going to do.
Well, we've got a bunch of students and a few friends who are involved, and they'll be performing a wide range of things. And some of those things we may have like some Crystal Clear song or two from that, and perhaps a song or two from our upcoming show, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that next step. So
Yeah.
the actual Wicked Witch is here for the Wizard of Oz. They're going to be quite an interview. Actually, the Wicked Witch may be here now, but we're not going to talk about that yet. We're not ready to deal with that yet.
But it's
So
a chance to
homecoming,
showcase all the things that are happening with our students, both with shows and with their learning process.
What's a cabaret?
It's a collection of smaller performances.
Yeah.
Well, originally Cabaret was meant for artists to get together and perform for each other and build each other's work up. But then it became an art form between World War I and World War II in Europe. And now it's kind of like a talent show for musical theater nerds.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's kind of like people do their highlights and
Yes.
best of, and maybe like a bit like a variety show, but it kind of tends more towards the musical theater
Yes.
stuff. So
And it's
yeah.
a great opportunity for our students to be able to practice some of their audition stuff and just perform more. And the more you perform, the better you get at performing.
So what's the process of putting together a cabaret at Utica University? What do you do to make this happen?
Well, we have Dennis Clark, who is our director for this.
Right, I've interviewed him before.
And he has his group of students that he's been working with all semester, and they meet weekly right now.
Mhm.
And they've started by collecting the songs that they and the performances that they wanted to consider doing, and then they figured out how. Well, Dakota, you were there.
Yeah, Dakota. So Dakota Wayne is here, and you'll be performing in Cabaret.
Yes.
You may or may not be the Wicked Witch. We're going to talk about that next time too. I can't wait to get to that. But as far as this homecoming cabaret goes, you're one of the performers. What was your process? How did you get involved? And what do you do to be ready to sing your song on October 25th?
All right, so as Laura had said, Dennis Clark, the wonderful Dennis Clark, is the professor of our special topics class, which is basically the foundation of creating a cabaret. And within the first week of class, we had to come up with 2 songs that we think we would love to perform. And so it started with the list.
What did you choose?
So I had a long list of songs. I had it For Forever from the musical Dear Evan Hansen. I had a song, not musical theater related, called Anything Worth Holding On To by Cynthia Erivo.
Okay.
There were just many songs that I think suited my voice best.
Okay.
Ultimately, I ended up choosing to perform For Forever from Dear Evan Hansen for the class, and Dennis was all for it, and so from the moment we performed it and he either verified it or we looked in a different direction, we've just been getting up in front of the class and practicing, getting our direction and feeling the emotion behind it. So that's where we stand now. Everyone's got final songs, and there's, as Laura had said, a wide variety. We have musical theater, non-musical theater. Some people may even be dancing in theirs, so it's definitely something to come out for.
So with your song, if it's a song from part of a play, what will people see? Will you be in costume or at a cabaret, or do you dress up like you're just performing for audience, or do you dress in character? Is there dancing involved? Did you kind of decide how much immersive experience you want to make it?
I think that's up in the air, per performer.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I may wear something kind of in resemblance to what Ben Platt would have wore on Broadway. You won't see me in a cast,
Yeah.
But in terms of some of the performers who have dancing, I do believe we may have top hats and canes,
Wow, so we quite a show.
Yeah, so as Laura said, it's smaller segments of different shows. So people will be dressed up or, button down, something like that.
What is your rehearsal schedule like? So if you're in a cabaret, in the beginning of the semester, which would be back in August, last week of August, you started to talk about this and choose songs, and throughout September and into October as we get ready, how does it kind of gel together? What happens?
So our class meets once a week, Wednesdays from 5 to 6:15. But as a performer, you have to take the time to go outside of that. So for me, any chance I am in my car, I'm constantly singing my song that I'll be performing. For my song, For Forever, it is a very emotional song.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to find where to put the emotion, what to think of in my personal life that brings that emotion without going over.
Yeah.
Because in class, I did let it get extreme, and it is an emotional song, and I was sobbing just on stage while still singing.
Right.
And afterwards, I told the director, I was like, see, I need to work on what I think about and to what extent, so I'm not bawling while
And
performing.
although that's probably part of the process too, to
Yes.
really and I'm sure that was a beneficial experience, even though it may have been hard.
Yes.
How do you decide how to regulate that?
So
Or how, once you decided, how do you figure out how to regulate that?
So for me, it's really listening to my song over and over and hearing what the words are and breaking it down to moments of my life. Like, he says this, what makes me feel those words?
Right.
And then I just have to play something from my past in my head.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, when I sing this line, this is what it is. But lucky for me, my song, For Forever, he has created this perfect day that didn't actually happen. So for me, I can take my past and change what I would have done on a specific day in my life. And I can make it my own perfect day, what would have been my perfect day.
So, Laura, like, it sounds like art can be a very healing thing.
Oh yes,
In a
definitely.
way to, like, reconceptualize your past and to, like, prepare for, like, circumstances to come.
And also to it helps teach empathy as well. You have to have empathy to perform theater, but you're sharing that empathy with your audience.
Right,
And so
You almost have to count on the audience to have empathy too.
exactly.
And that's a big responsibility for the performer, I would think. So how do you prepare yourself for that? How do you prepare yourself for Dakota? Like, you know, that you want an audience to be with you as you share yourself emotionally. You're on stage, you're doing it. How do you handle that?
It's a really good question. I guess you just really hope and pray that you have the right people in the audience, you know?
Yeah.
But people that usually go out to theatrical events are into the arts.
Right.
And so as long as I give my best performance and I'm showing my real emotion, it will usually end up moving people. At the end, I apologize. I'm so sorry that I just broke down in the middle of my song. And he said, no, that's okay.
The audience, I'm sure that your class understood that as an essential and important part of the process. And actually, I'm sure it was very educational for them to see someone go through that. So
Yes, Dennis actually was wiping a few tears, and he was like, no, that's okay, because like we were crying with you.
Right.
And I think it's a good thing to like put true, genuine emotion into a song. And to be able to make it through a song while dealing with that is like tough in its own.
You must see this a lot, Laura, and help your students to like build up their resilience, not only to deal with the emotions of these characters and the parts, but just to deal with like the stress of being a performer on stage. How do you do that?
Well, you gotta help students find balance, and it is possible for actors to go too far into their characters, and that can be problematic. So it's important to help your students realize where their boundaries are and approach characters in a safe way. And even like Stanislavski wrote the initial book on method acting, and then he went back and wrote another one that kind of repairs.
What is method acting? I actually know, and I want to see if I have it right, but I'd like our listeners to know too. How would you describe it?
Capital M method acting is like living the life of your character on stage. You really internalize all of that.
Right.
And
does method acting involving living the life of your character, at least in your head, off stage as well?
a lot of method actors will go
That's
there.
A reputation.
Yes, and it can be damaging to their life as well if they go too far down that rabbit hole. I don't know a lot of capital M method actors who stay married very long.
I was gonna say,
but nowadays we tend to teach Stanislavski's method in
keep it more in perspective.
Yeah, like you should know that you can go there, but you should also know it's not safe to go too far there.
Right.
You've got to maintain your own personality of who you are.
Yeah.
You can't just become someone else full time.
Right, and you don't want to. You don't want to bring the trauma of a character with you all day long. And you know, like with a lot of drama and a lot of musicals, any character, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs and stuff that goes through to make it a show, to add the narrative tension, and that's a lot to. It's something you probably do want to be able to segment from the rest of your life.
Yes, and I mean it's good to channel those real life experiences you have and combine them with your character, but it's also good to know where your boundaries are so you don't need therapy from your career.
Yeah. Now, how do you prepare students just for being on stage? You know, it's got to be, I actually was in my first play 2 weekends ago. I had 2 lines in this murder mystery 5-minute play at Capitol Theater.
Oh, wow.
It was really great. And, I have done this kind of stuff for 30 years. But on stage, I was really a little bit afraid that like when the time came that I might freeze. I didn't. I was fine. It was just like this, you know, in the moment, the wave takes you and you're with it.
Yep.
But like, you must have a lot of students who come to you and say like, what happens if this or what happens if that?
So like when we're teaching, I teach intro to theater a lot, and
Yeah.
I end up with a lot of students who are just terrified to be on stage. And that's actually something I identify with. I am a set designer. I am not an actor.
Oh, really? So you don't act?
I don't act. No.
Oh, okay.
So I do the set designs for all of the Utica
Yeah,
University
yeah.
stuff. And I will teach some certain amount of acting for intro, but I
Yes,
don't teach
yes.
the acting classes.
Yeah.
But because I can identify with that, I like look. The actors, you do it more, you get better. You've got to face that demon if you're
Right.
gonna be able to do it. This is good for you.
Right.
But not everyone is meant to be on stage as that
True.
total actor person. I know I'm not meant to.
Yeah.
And I know it because when I get up there, I don't just go with the flow. And
Yeah.
like the people who shine up there,
Yeah.
they can take that nervous energy and find a way to channel it into their characters, and it makes their
It
performance
kind of
better.
glows. Yeah.
But some people will never get there.
Right. Right.
Because some people's personalities aren't
right. Right.
that.
And like you said, there's so many things that people can do that's not on stage. So why don't you tell us about some of the ways that Utica University prepares students to do all the other stuff? I mean, I watched you guys, Pioneer Players, get ready to do company, and it was incredible. Like, someone had to be in charge of the martini glasses, and someone had to do
Oh, yeah.
the obvious things like the mics and the lights and whatever. All
And
the
that's
things people
just
do.
like while you're running the show,
Yeah,
you've got all
yeah.
those people. But the build up to that, I mean, you have a concept meeting where like your designers get together with your director, and you talk about what is it going to look like someday,
Yeah.
and then you all get your artistic vision on the same page. And you go out your separate ways, and you hope it stays on the same page. So when you come back together and you have something to show, it's like moving in the same direction. And you come back together for a number of meetings so that you can make sure you're all moving in the same direction, because it's a collaborative art form.
Oh yeah.
And often,
yeah.
like artists are solo people, but in the theater,
Right.
you've got to work
You
together.
got to be a team.
And then, like as a designer, I build a little model, and then I'll do some drafting to communicate with the people who are building it, and I'll do some renderings. And then at Utica University, I also tend to be the technical director, so I'm communicating with myself there. And then we go and build it, and we paint it, and I'm there with students all the time. I mean, I was there for 4 hours today building and painting early this morning.
So, do you read the script, the text, and visualize in your head? And
Oh,
like how
yes.
it'll be, then sketch it out? Is that your
And-
process?
I'll start doodling, and sometimes the process is that like I doodle and I've got an idea of where I want to go, and sometimes
Yeah.
I'll doodle like 100 different things and like toss them in a corner and swear at them.
It's just drafts. You know,
Yeah,
you're working through drafts. Yeah.
So it depends on how inspired you are, and sometimes that aha moment just hits you,
yeah.
and sometimes it takes a while to get there, and you just never know when inspiration will strike. But
Right.
you've got to find that moment where the key is unlocked for this vision.
And of course, the challenge too is within the framework of the set, the space, the money, the limitations.
There
like,
are a lot of
you
constraints.
gotta get all the characters on stage and off stage. Has to like function too.
Theater works
it's
in a
lot.
very strict box, and it's not just the box of like the budget and what it has to accomplish, but you also have the box of a very firm timeline,
Right.
because
right.
the show must go on.
Right,
There is no
right.
extending that end date.
Yeah. So what happens, Dakota? Like if the show must go on? Oh, wow! Actually, we're almost out of time in this segment, but you'll be on the next segment. You're going to be in the Wizard of Oz. We're going to talk about that next. Before we go to break, Laura, please tell us one more time about like when people can come and see the Homecoming Cabaret and how, when, where, all the
October
details.
25th at 7 p.m. in Strebel Auditorium. And there will be other homecoming
There's so much
events
stuff
going on too.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's all free. So
Yeah.
and it's open to the community, which I think a lot of people don't realize. But like,
Homecoming weekend at Utica University is amazing. There's like theme park rides, there's games, there's like you can win prizes and cotton candy and and of course the game.
a lot of
you
times
know,
there's like music. I know we've
There's
got
so
our
much.
cabaret that Friday night, and then there's going to be a step
Yeah.
show on Saturday night.
wow.
So lots of fun
So
stuff.
much happening. And
Yeah.
I'm going to have information about all this stuff on the show notes at uticaphoenix.net. And in our next segment, we're going to talk about the next thing after this happening at Utica University. It's always some great thing that's happening there in theater. thank you for being on the show. I'm sure you'll be on again to tell us more about, I really love to write about the work that you guys do there.
Well, thank you.
I love Utica University with all my heart, and I just love being a part of it. And I sort of feel like I'm a part of the theater department too, even though I'm the English teacher guy. It's like it's such a warm place. You know.
We like having you around.
Yeah, well, I like being around. So, and I like the listeners to stick around because after this break, we're going to have more. We're going to talk to the Wicked Witch and the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz. More after this break. This is Ron Klopfenstein, and you're on the hot seat on a Media Monday. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is a Media Monday special edition on a Wednesday. And today's theme really is Utica University, all these great shows that they have coming up this weekend. You'll see Crystal Clear. It's a new musical. We just talked to the composer and the lyricist, Johnny Calabrese, and the lead, Claire Bosley. If you missed that part of the show, we're going to have this online at uticaphoenix.net. I'll try to have that up by Thursday so we can see it in time for the show. Then 2 weeks after that, October 25th, there'll be homecoming weekend at Utica University. So there'll be a cabaret with lots of different performers and songs. That's free. And that will be at 7 o'clock on Friday, October 25th. That's also at Utica College, Utica University. And if you missed that part of the show, I'll also have that segment up on the show notes at uticaphoenix.net on Thursday. Now we're going to talk to, and then 2 weeks after that, November 7th, the weekend of November 7th, 8th, 9th, I'm thinking. Through the 10th, there'll be the Wizard of Oz. And so I have with me today the two actors who play the Scarecrow and the Wicked Witch, Dakota. So we just spoke to Dakota Wayne. You're back for segment number 3. So tell me about the Wicked. How do you approach a character that is so iconic, and one where also where it's so much in the public consciousness at the moment because Wicked the musical is coming out. Everybody has an idea of what the Wicked Witch is and what the Wicked Witch should be like. And now you're going to come on stage, you're going to be the Wicked Witch. How do you approach a role like that?
So I have to say, this is probably my most challenging role to date. The Wizard of Oz I hold dear to my heart. It's been my favorite movie since I was a child. I have Christmas tree ornaments of the Wizard of Oz. The list is endless. But it is such an iconic role, and not only is it an iconic role, it is traditionally played by a female.
True.
So when I got the call offering the role of the Wicked Witch, my first response was, you guys are just kidding. Like, there's absolutely no way you're being serious.
Yeah.
But of course, I accepted, instantly, because that is such a big thing,
Oh, yeah.
And Margaret Hamilton, classic traditional Wicked Witch.
Yes. Right.
She is such an icon, and she did that role so well.
Yeah.
So for me, I've watched this movie 40 million times, and I've been rewatching it, studying any little thing I can, all the way down to her finger movements.
What did you notice?
Notice as in
when you studied her, what mannerisms or what expressions did you adopt?
Her fingers. One of the things about her fingers are always sprawled out and bent and very crooked almost.
No, I think of it true. Yeah, and good observation.
She's usually hunched over. She doesn't always walk straight up. She's kind of got a hunch in her back.
Yep.
And what's really nice is that with all of the makeup, her mouth is very noticeable because the rest of her is green, and her tongue is pink, and but she has all these her eye movements, the way she looks. The fingers, though. The fingers are one thing that I'm okay.
So do you practice that, those her finger movements, in the mirror at first, and then apply it to the script, or?
I walk around my house quoting anything I can of the Wicked Witch, just moving my fingers hunched over. I'm replaying the movie in my head any little chance I can.
Now, what about the laugh? That's sort of a very iconic laugh, and then you must feel a bit of pressure about doing that, that cackle. Did you try to approach it like Margaret Hamilton, or did you? How did you do that?
So for me, because The Wizard of Oz is such a classic film, I did want my Wicked Witch to be as close to Margaret Hamilton's as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are things in the script that are very different from the movie, so there are moments that I have to make my own.
Yeah.
But I like to stay true to a classic. So that is actually my biggest struggle with the role is
The cackle?
sort of. It's the placement of my voice because
Okay.
I'm a male, so my voice
Yeah.
is just naturally lower.
Yeah.
But she's high pitched and
Yeah.
very nasally.
Yeah, my pretty. I'll get you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very nasally.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yes.
and so it's like I don't want to hurt myself, but
Oh,
I
yeah,
also I want people to leave there like, wow, that was a man.
Yeah.
And so any
Yeah.
chance I get, which isn't often, but when I'm in an environment where I can just let it out, I just explore and I change pitches and I just make it. I've had people ask me, can you do what the cackle's gonna sound like? And I'm like, no, I'm not in a theater. Like I need to be in
Probably
the
have to be
theater
in
space.
the moment too, like in the character sense. Now, you probably would agree with that too, Caleb. So you're playing the Scarecrow,
Yeah.
and what's really curious about you is like you're not in college. You're only You're in ninth grade,
Yes, sir.
right? So how did you get involved with like college productions? Good for you though, by the way. But how did that come about?
So, about a year ago, Mr. Dennis J. Clark, he asked me to do Into the Woods.
Yeah, you were great in that, by the way.
Thank you.
And it was super impressive because back then you were even younger, obviously, than you are now. And I was thinking, like, this kid is like 8th grade. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, he asked me to do Into the Woods, and I tried out for it, and I got the role as the narrator.
Yeah.
And then I was doing practices for about a month, and I met a lot of people that, like, are really good friends with me now.
Oh,
And
great.
so now I have a lot of these connections, so I can do
Yeah.
a lot more productions, including productions at the college.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dennis asked me to do this again, and now
Nice.
here I am doing it.
So did you try out for different roles and get the Scarecrow, or was that the one you wanted to do, or?
So originally, like about a few months ago, Dennis was saying that I could play like the wizard,
Yeah.
and I've seen The Wizard of Oz before,
Yeah.
but I didn't remember like the story of it.
Right.
But then right before auditions, I started watching the movie, and then I liked all the characters, but the Scarecrow really stood out to me because
Why?
Because he's kind of like me. Like, obviously I don't go around like jumping everywhere, but he's goofy and
Yeah.
sometimes doesn't do the smartest things, but he's a good person
You're
at
a
heart.
kid. That's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. You have a good heart too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has like a unique kind of physicality.
Yes.
That must have been hard to capture. How do you prepare for that? The move, not just the words, but how you got to move.
Yeah. Just watching the movie a lot, like a lot, and just practicing.
Yeah.
Like in front of
Yeah.
the mirror and at home, I just move around, and even at school,
Yeah.
sometimes it just comes out, just because I just like the movement. It's very.
Yeah.
It takes a
yeah.
lot, but it's very fun.
Yeah. It's just very physical thing, to do that. So how do you so like when you get a script, so you get the Wizard of Oz, the play script,
Yeah.
do you like take notes on the script? Do you watch the movie with the script in your hand and like copy stuff down, or like what's your process to like keep track of what you want to do and when you want to do it and be ready so that you can do it like each time at that moment?
So the way I do that is just watching the movie a ton, like I said, and just having these little mental notes in my head.
Yep.
And then sometimes, like later when I'm at practice, I have my script out and I write little notes for me just
Yep.
to do like this certain thing at this moment.
Yep.
And I try to be faithful to the character, but also
Yeah.
make it my own.
Who is the character? Like what is he all about to you? Like if someone said, "Who's the Scarecrow?" What would you say?
So the Scarecrow is this person who's very naive because he's been stuck on a pole for basically all his life.
Yeah. Right.
So, and he's very naive, so he's not the smartest a lot of times, but he does still have common sense. And he
Yes.
doesn't realize this until the end when the wizard tells him so. And then after he tells him, he realizes he can be smart and then does smart things.
I love that. That is great insight into the character, and it probably helped you a lot to like be able to think like that, to play him, because you got to have the humanity too. And for you, for Dakota, like you're playing a part, the Wicked Witch. Do you, when you were approaching the role, do you think about like maybe the way that say Gregory Maguire interpreted her for Wicked? In Wicked, the Wicked Witch of the West is played a lot more sympathetic, is portrayed more sympathetically. So, do you think of your part, like when you think of your part, when as a Wicked Witch, like do you kind of think about those other aspects that maybe even though in this story, in this context, she's like evil, do do you think, well, there's maybe another side to her too?
Yes, so there is definitely another side to her. That, of course, that's the story of Wicked, like
Yeah.
how she became to be.
Right.
For me personally, in terms of The Wizard of Oz, because the story is different,
Yeah.
I don't try to often think of her backstory.
Okay.
And I do try to think, like, she's nasty, she's
Yeah.
evil, and she just wants the worst for everything but herself.
Okay.
And so I feel like
well,
if
you
I get,
nailed it.
I feel like if I get too into her backstory, it might
Yeah.
I might start to take away some of her, like,
Oh, that's true. Yes.
mean evilness,
Right,
and
right.
I really want her to be. I was saying to Dennis, I said I kind of want the kids to actually be scared of me,
Yeah.
because we do have younger children in this.
Yeah.
It's a collab with Notre Dame,
Yep.
and
Oh, neat.
I'm super excited, and I was like, I want to come out, and I actually want people to be like, oh, like, you know.
There she is, Wicked Witch.
So yeah, for me, no, I really try to just hold her to her evilness, and I don't really.
Yeah.
She does have a backstory, you know. She is alone, and
Yeah.
nobody understands her. It's
Yeah.
her, herself, and her.
And Dorothy dropped a house on her
sister, you know,
so she has
how-
reason to be mad.
How
you know?
clumsy, you know.
So, so for Caleb, for you, like you're a student at Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
So is that how this connection kind of came about? That like you're involved with this? I mean, other than being asked, you
Yes.
know, what is that connection between Utica University and Notre Dame for this project?
So last year in 2023, there hadn't been many like plays or musicals at Notre Dame because of COVID.
Right.
So
right.
that stopped all productions. And I remember the seniors of that year were like very persistent
Yeah.
on a musical happening. So Mr. Clark took on that role as director and made a cabaret out of it.
Oh,
and
nice.
then we didn't have as much resources because
Yeah.
our school is very small.
Yeah.
And so this year we wanted to have more resources, so Mr. Clark had that collaboration.
That's great. So are there other people from your school who are involved in the play too?
Yes, so a lot of the Munchkins
Mm-hmm.
are all Notre Dame kids.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah.
No, that's nice. So, Dakota, I know we're probably nowhere near dress rehearsal time, but have you had a makeup test yet with all the green makeup?
So the moment I was cast, I instantly went online to start looking at makeup. And the thing, you can go to Spirit Halloween, which I did just to get practice makeup, but there's a
Yeah.
big difference between Spirit Halloween $4.99 makeup and like professional stage makeup.
What's the difference?
The contents and what the ingredients
How
are
long
made
it, like,
of, and
holds
how
up
long
or-
it holds up, and
Yeah.
what like how the color shows. So I did go to Spirit Halloween and buy some cheap green makeup just to like give myself an idea, and I bought a witch hat and a broom and nothing that's going to be my actual costume.
Right.
But
right.
then my actual order came in, and I did have a practice session with that. It is going to take, I thought possibly I would be able to do it by myself, but it is so much like detail, and you can't, it's not just green, you know.
And how much time?
Oh, by myself. By myself, I set a timer, and I was
I was
already
gonna
up to
say.
45 minutes, and I was like, this is not possible to do by myself.
I would say that's
With-
gotta be a long makeup job.
With
to
two
be-
people,
Yeah.
there are people in the theater department that want to be a part of the show, and I had someone come to me and she was like, please see if I can be in charge of your makeup.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be exciting, it's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah.
But once we get more practice with it, it'll come along.
Yeah,
for
it'll
sure.
take a while, but it'll be worth it because I'm sure it'll be a great costume as well too.
Oh,
so.
I'm super excited. I was like, paint me green and give me a
I
broomstick.
love it. So, Caleb, what advice do you have for kids your age or younger, maybe who want to give this a try and want to be in plays? What would you say to them?
So if you're like me and you're in a musical where the kids are a lot older than you, like these are all college kids pretty much.
Yeah.
You have to just get over the nervousness because you're usually going to feel that because you'll feel like you don't really belong in
Right.
there. And I felt that last year for Into the Woods. This year I'm a lot better with that because I've been in a lot more productions, so I'm more
Yeah.
confident in myself and my work. So I would just say to all the kids out there, just be confident and don't be scared to be yourself.
I love that advice. That is really good. That is really good advice. And, probably everybody who's there, to a degree, feels the same way too. Because doing a play is scary. Like you're all coming together and thinking, oh, am I the right person for the part? You know. So Dakota, like, what advice do you have for people who want to be actors or performers or do this sort of thing?
I say go for it, head on. You know, I remember my first time in a musical was my freshman year of high school, and I heard at lunchtime over the intercom they were doing auditions for Shrek the Musical, and I was like, I want to be in a musical. And I went in, and I was really tiny, and I was really shy, but it was so fun. It's a chance to play a different character. It's a chance to escape the real world, because we all know there's a lot going on in this world right now. But to step into a different story, to step into a different character, it can be whatever you want it to be. And in terms of Caleb, you know, he said he was really nervous and whatnot, but you have to think he's a 14-year-old freshman
It's
in
really
a college
amazing, yeah.
production,
Yes.
and he's crazy
Impressive,
talented, and
right.
his movements for the Scarecrow are spot on.
And we know that you're
Um,
great because you're great in Into the Woods.
And Into the Woods. And he's
Thank you.
taking college
You're
courses.
taking a college course?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, and you're in 9th grade?
Yeah.
What's a college course?
So it's the Cabaret college.
Wow,
course
so you're
thing.
getting credit for this?
Yes.
College credit? Good for you. That's incredible. At
Yeah.
your age too. Oh my God, what a great experience.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of neat how Utica University offers so much to the public. You know,
Yes,
not just to
definitely.
the community, to everybody. It's a wonderful place. So,
Yeah.
so what are you studying in this class?
So, I'm just studying how to portray different types of characters.
Yeah.
Because the songs I'm doing are pretty different. One's a love song, "Put Your Head on My Shoulder" by Paul Anka.
Mm-hmm.
Very classic. I love that song. And then the other one I'm doing is "When I Get My Name in Lights" from
Yeah.
The Boy from Oz, which is this kid who wants to be a star, basically,
Yeah.
and he's very confident in himself. So
Yeah.
two different things, and I'm trying to portray both of them equally as good.
So the class would teach you how to like approach a song, kind of
Yes.
like in character, or like to approach a song and give the emotion as you're,
Yes.
portray the emotion as you do it too. Sounds like an amazing class. That
It is.
really, yeah. So how many plays have you done? How long have you been at this?
I've been at this for like a year and a half, I would say.
Wow. So was Into the Woods your first show?
It was one of my first like
Your first major part,
major
really?
one. So my first show was actually the Cabaret at Notre Dame,
Okay.
and Mr. Clark was very kind to me and gave me a lot of experience. And
He's a great guy.
yeah, he gave me he recommended me for a $7,000 scholarship to this acting camp, 3 weeks sleepaway,
Wow.
and that like it taught me a lot.
I'll bet. What an amazing experience that
Yes.
must have been. What did it teach you?
It taught me how to portray my characters better because I didn't have a lot of experience because
Yeah.
I only had done one show when I was there. And I felt very shy because I was the kid who had a scholarship, and
Yeah.
there are so many talented people who have been
How
doing this
amazing
for
that
years.
you got that though. What,
Yeah.
like, what a coup to like be awarded that. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering, like, how do you keep, both of you, like, how do you keep the stamina to like do this and to like feel these things that you feel and play these parts like over and over and over again, rehearsal, and keep it up. Like, how do you do that?
It's very very tiring.
I'll bet.
Yeah, because I have a lot going on at school.
Yeah.
I have to get up
You have your
at-
real life too.
Yes. I have to get up at 5 in the morning and go to school at 7 o'clock for drill practice because I do NJROTC.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, and our team is a national team, so
Wow.
they're very hard on us.
Yeah.
And it's really just hard, but you just gotta keep going.
Wow, that is impressive. All the stuff that you do. Great interview.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on the show. Dakota,
you.
tell us one more time, like, when can people see The Wizard of Oz at Utica University? When, where, how?
So come out to Utica University's Strebel Theater on November 7th, 8th, and 9th at 7:30, and November 9th and 10th at 2 p.m. Tickets are $20 general admission, $5 for Utica students and Notre Dame High School students. And it's going to be a great time. We are working with some crazy talented people from Notre Dame, the university itself, as well as some community members. So come on out and see a classic.
So there's a lot of great shows happening at Utica University this weekend, 2 weeks after that, 2 weeks after that, including The Wizard of Oz, the Cabaret, this brand new musical, Crystal Clear. I'm going to have all this information in the show notes at uticaphoenix.net. thank you to all my guests today, all these
Thank
talented people from Utica University. And now I'm going to kick things over to Jay Easy for the easy ride home.
Yo, what's up?